So what we have is a simple activity where we need to get two numbers, PQ, and divide and determine if we will have a proper fraction, improper fraction. If it is improper, represent it as a mixed fraction. Only improper fractions can be expressed as a mixed fraction. If you enter numbers in such a way that you don't have a fraction, it has to say not a fraction. Many of you did a great job. So you should be proud of yourself. You are making progress. That is a good thing. Slowly but steadily. Things to note. When we first have a problem and you are programming, first thing is to understand the logic. You read and say, okay, logically, what should the sequence be? There are two things that I observed, or three things. First one, most of you are getting better at declaring variables and putting semicolon, all that stuff. So that's great, getting there. So the second part is new, thinking about the logic. The thing that I saw is there are two groups. One used if. Another if, else. We have three conditions. So sure, there are two ways to do it. One, doing if, or if, else. Yes, given the two options, which is more effective? Else if, right? We have else if for that very same purpose. One single block. Is that fine? Yes, in this particular case, it will work. Reason being, whatever that you put inside an if is not going to run unless the condition is satisfied. So this will work, but not good programming practice. Yes.
Wouldn't you need another else if? Because what if like you have, it's not the same number, it's not 32 over 32, but it's like 15 over 5. That's not like a fraction. It would just come out to, that's what the else is. Oh, yeah, I guess that depends on how you do it again.
The third thing that I want to point out is people recognize that you have to use a modulo, but then once you got to the modulo part, you started testing modulo 2. Modulo 2 serves one purpose, simply in programming terms, to determine if a number is even or odd. But that is not the only purpose of a modulo. By definition, a modulo operator is going to give you the remainder. So when we divide P over Q, we are going to get a result. The result will have an integer part and a fractional part. Our objective is to isolate the integer part and the fractional part. If we can do that, then I should be able to write the mixed fraction. There were some of you who wrote or implemented the problem in a different way, perfectly fine. If your approach is different from mine, great. You learn something new, you can learn something else. By all means, yours could be more effective than mine. I don't know. We have to do a compiler test. Regardless, once you program, make sure that the syntax is working. The last step is to see and check if it's doing what it's supposed to do. Good, that's why I walked around and tested. So very first thing that we need is IO stream. Again, if you implemented it in a different way, that is perfectly okay, as long as it does what it's supposed to do. So I'm going to define two integers, PQ. One is for the numerator, another denominator. If P is greater than Q, I'll do less than first. Get to the greater than part. Yes.
Maybe more than two more.
Oh, sorry, that's a mistake. Shouldn't be there. Now I have a one-liner, so I don't even need curly braces. Some of you did put curly braces, perfectly fine. So we need to perform 3 checks. Check 1, we have to check to see if we have a proper fraction. Second check or condition is mixed fraction or improper fraction. The last step is anything else. So I'm going to simply say not a fraction. So task 1 complete. What should we do? We have to make sure that the code runs first, one step at a time. Okay. Even before I proceed, do you think the way that it is right now, that the program will execute successfully? Read through line by line, understand what I typed, and tell me if that code is going to execute without any problems. Anthony, louder. I need a return statement. This is not going to run because I have to return something. I don't know what happened to my terminal. It disappeared. Oh, return, you can put any number other than 2, as long as it is a integer. Now, I've shown you cases where, sure, I can have a double, return an integer. That's fine because the compiler plays well with certain data types. There is one data type that it doesn't play well with when you return. Do we remember? When you grill something, you like it charred. Okay, think of a grill and a burger. I'm getting hungry. Okay, now we want to know if things executed properly. The syntax, is it okay? Did we achieve stuff? Well, right now nothing is defined. I do get an output. The inputs form an improper fraction. Why am I getting that? Thoughts? They don't have a value assigned to it. It's picking some random garbage stuff and it's doing its own thing. One way to avoid this is by using initial values, but beyond the scope of this. So we need inputs. That is my next step. Enter the numerator. While I'm typing this, let me ask you this question. Do we remember something called the remainder theorem? No? Did we take algebra? Pre-calculus? Yep. Do we remember remainder theorem from pre-calculus? No? Okay. Whatever we're going to do can be represented in terms of remainder theorem. Louisanne? Okay, that was quick. And remainder theorem is useful. Later, I'm going to do base conversions implementation, and you will see that modulars are very, very useful. Numerator 12, denominator 5, great, doing partially what it's supposed to. One more time, 5, 12 words. Ooh. Five, not fraction. I don't want to get into this entire classification of numbers beyond the scope of this class. So it is doing the initial task properly. There is one step that is missing, which is we want to convert that improper fraction as or convert and print it as a mixed fraction. How do we do it? First, I've got to add lines to the else if part. Do we agree? Because that is the place where it is testing for an improper fraction. So since I'm going to add more lines, I no longer have the flexibility to not use curly brackets, not dealing with one line anymore. So moving on, with curly braces, we want to find the integer part when I divide p or p by q. So I have a number that's got two parts, the integer part, fractional part. The only time lines 28, 29, the next line that I'm going to type will even execute is when we have an improper fraction. We needn't worry about the other case. So I'm simply going to do p divided by q. There is a problem being q is an integer data type. The result is not going to give you a decimal value. Do we agree? Okay, so this is what Robert was asking. Can I do something directly? You absolutely can. Yes,
If you made the variables double, so you made the variables double.
Yeah. that is correct. Now, I'm going to run this. And, oops, LCD. Where did I type LCD? Okay. Weird. 12, 5. The division result is 2, or the result of division. Better English, I guess, grammar. Now, in this problem, not a big deal. Reason being, I only care about the integer part. I don't care about the decimal part right here. So I can directly have 2 integers, so p over q, and get the integer part. C++ is going to truncate automatically. If you don't want truncation to take place, you have to use a double data type, floating point, etc. Declared int. So since we have declared p and q as integers or integer data types, the result is going to be an integer. So I can save p over q to something, I'll call it, can I simply use the variable int? Absolutely not. Int is a reserved word. So int integer underscore part. I saw some of you do this. There is nothing wrong with it. Again, it's called programming style, just like we all have our own writing style. My programming style, some of the people that I worked with, they will pick it up. This was written by him. So I saw some of you declaring integers or floating point variables as you went along. Nothing wrong with that. I personally don't like to do that. I like to keep things organized, and I have everything at the top. I don't need 2 separate lines, so I'm just going to move and do it this way. I personally think, at least for me, it's better practice. Declarations on top, code follows that, but it is your choice. You do what makes you happy. So int underscore part is simply p over q. So earlier I showed by printing directly because Robert wanted to know, so there's that, but I created a variable. Now that I have the int part, I would like to have the fractional part. And specifically the fractional part, I want to represent it as, a proper fraction. So how would we go about doing this? So I'm going to call it frac underscore part. No, I'll do it this way. I'm going to define a variable named remainder. Now, I want to show you something, so I'm doing this intentionally, so do keep that in mind. Going to define remainder as float. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. When you divide a number by another number, you're either going to get 0 or you're going to get an integer of some sort. Have you ever gotten a remainder when you do division that is a decimal? That's silly. Doesn't happen. Math doesn't work that way. So I intentionally declared it as a float, but here's a question. I want to change that to an integer. How would I do it?
Static keyboard cast.
Very good. You can typecast it. And last time I showed you how to typecast. So I'm going to start by doing the modulo. So P mod Q. Keep in mind, both P, Q, in my case, are integers. Some of you did it as doubles, got it to work. Good job. Styles differ. Let's see if it runs. It does. Good. So far, so good, which means syntax is still okay. It is good practice to test as you go, because if you have a program that has 1,000 lines and you keep on typing, you're going to lose track really fast. So comment, check, move along. If I have 12, I divide by 5, the remainder will be 2. Easy question, people. So I've got the remainder. The next is to get the quotient. Do we have the quotient already? Annalisa, we do. Where are we getting that from? The integer part gives you the quotient. So here, this example, 13/5. I don't think we need a refresher on long division. 5, 2, 10, 3. Yes. So the remainder is 3. Quotient is 5. Sorry. Divisor is 5. Quotient is 2. The quotient is nothing but the integer part that I have up there. So great, moving on. Remainder, I haven't printed it, but in this case, remainder would be 3. I'm going to print because I have everything I need to represent the mixed fraction. Do you agree with me? Yes, I have the integer part. I already know Q, which is right here. What is going to give me that part?
Which part?
The 3 in that example.
Mod.
The mod. So all I have to do is this. We want to specify the integer part. I wanted a space followed by parentheses. Now I want to specify the remainder. Thanks. And lastly, we are going to put Q and close parentheses, semicolon. So integer part followed by the remainder and Q. Is it going to run? Yes, no, maybe.
No.
George?
Quotation mark outside of it. It's not running for me, it's in there now.
Quotation where?
Where you see the other parentheses, saying that there's an error because it's a quotation mark again, right, it's the semicolon, somebody needs to write it.
Now, typically we can't break a line, but here, when I break, it's fine. As soon as I save, things start changing colors. Benefits of having an IDE, it tells you that things aren't going the way they're supposed to. We're running into issues because of parentheses. Aside from that, everything looks fine. If you want to be on the safe side, you can use an escape sequence and get things printed up perfectly fine. Enter the numerator. I'm going to go with 13. Jeez. 13, 5, 2, 3, 5. The remainder worked even though I have it as a double, because a double data type can handle an integer without any problems, because double has more memory than int. Good, but you can't do the other way around. It will truncate. If you are very particular and you don't like the fact that I used float for remainder and I want to convert it to an integer, you can use static cast like last time. You can also do this. It should work. If it doesn't work here, you can do it in a separate line. So you can simply put int. Last time I had this. I did static cast and followed it up by the data, sorry. Followed by the data type int, then whatever expression, so remainder in this case. Instead of doing that, I can simply do this. In this problem, though, it is not necessary to typecast. Again, some of you did doubles, did conversions, nothing wrong as long as there are no errors in syntax, the program runs and it does what it's supposed to do. Lisa?